I'm really excited to see how uh, O1 and O1 Pro are going to be able to handle like advanced case law research.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to the Automated Lawyer Podcast. I am one of your hosts, John Fritz, and I'm joined with my co-host, Dan Schnurbusch. Dan, what's going on this wonderful Friday?
John, I'm excited there for two reasons. The first is that today is the launch of book 5 of the Stormlight archive by Brandon Sanderson. I'm a massive Brandon Sanderson nerd.
Okay.
And I'm extremely excited about this. I've been waiting for this book for like a couple of years now, and I'm obsessed. And I'm probably like, nobody's probably going to see me for the next couple of weeks until I finish. These are like 1,200 page tomes that we've got to read through now. So very, very excited. I don't know if you're a reader of fiction and fun yourself or not.
You know, I used to be back in the day, especially when I would travel a lot in my former life. I would have a book in my hand at the airport, or on the airplane or whatever, and it just got phased out. I mean, I actually do miss reading fiction. It's just I just miss it. I mean, but I don't have the. I hate to use the phrase "I don't have the time" because that's total shit. It's not a priority, right?
Yeah. No, I know. I did not read any kind of for entertainment other than for like, business, which I don't know if I qualify that as entertainment. Kind of did not read for fun until like a year and a half ago, which is wild, but just never did. And got obsessed with, I started reading The Way of Kings, which is Brandon Sanderson's first novel in the Stormlight archive, and just immediately got hooked. And I was like, I'm obsessed with this. This is now my like part of my identity. And I mean, it is such a series. Like, I'm ready to be emotional.
What's it about? Is this like Dungeons and Dragons stuff, or what are we talking about?
It's hard. It's like a combination of like Dragon Ball Z with complex moral ethics, self-help, personal development, and just gripping, incredible character building and dialogue. Set inside of a fantasy universe with like elements of the MCU Marvel like multiverse kind of giant story thing going on. They call it the Brandon Sanderson Cosmere, where he has all these different books that are all inside of the same universe.
You lost me about 30 seconds ago.
I'm super nerding out about it. But so that's thing one that I'm very excited about. Thing two is we are now within the 12 days of shipmas from OpenAI. And they are now going to be shipping new, exciting things, I believe, every day for the next 12 days or so. And they started off with a bang where we're getting OpenAI, the full O1 model. You know how we've been working with the O1 preview model for the last couple of months. We now have the access to the full O1 model. This is the one that will like solve like complex ciphers and advanced mathematical calculations and wins math competitions and coding competitions and stuff like that. So we've got a whole new level of intelligence that's live in ChatGPT now, and it's coming to the API pretty soon. Stoked about that.
Do you know, and I have not played with the O1 model yet because that was the preview before, but do you know what they're running when you build a custom GPT, what platform they're running on? Is it the 4.0 model?
That's a good question. When you do a custom GPT, I don't know that you get to choose.
You don't get to choose. That's what I'm concerned about. I want to make sure that Eleanor is running on, the most advanced, but
I'm pretty, I don't know off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure it's 4.0. Because you're getting instantaneous responses in most cases from custom GPTs.
I mean,
so
either way, with the team, with the team platform that I've subscribed to, that I built Eleanor on, I mean, you have access to all the models, right? To be able to, dump stuff into it, and they don't train the works, they don't train the other, models with your stuff. But I'm interested to see what the O1 model can do, because O1 preview, you could not upload documents to it. So you can now. I just saw the little attachment thing, which I'm pretty excited about, because we had just talked offline about, some of the things that I'm trying to do when it comes to digest actual case documents and then regurgitate them, right?
Yeah. That's actually one of the, so in addition to launching O1, the other thing that they announced, and I posted about this in Legal Tech Collective, the other thing that they announced is the O1 Pro version. So a Pro implementation of their O1 model, which it's not entirely clear what distinguishes it. I think they're just like literally just throwing more compute behind the Pro version. And I think you don't get access to it unless you pay this $200 a month new premium price tag for their most advanced models. And like anybody who like follows the background on like the actual creation of these models knows that the resources and electricity and energy involved in producing like marginally improved models is scales. I believe it's exponentially. I think it's a scaling. It's not like
Yeah.
a linear scaling. So the more adding small amounts of intelligence can cost like orders of magnitude more than just leaving it the way it was. So they're charging a premium price tag. But
Did you see the comparison of what in the charting of what the comparisons between O1 Preview, O1, and then O1 Pro, and like what it can do when it comes to like, so they put it in an actual chart, like a bar chart of just to say like, different when it comes to math computation or this or that, different parameters. But that O1 Pro is like, it's like 3 or 4 times the O1 Preview when it comes to like certain parameters and certain abilities.
yeah, I'm looking. I've got it pulled up. It looks like it's hitting slightly improved scores, especially on math. It's got a little bit better scores, and on coding, it's got a little bit. But the area where it's significantly better appears to be in the reliability of its output.
Yes.
And yeah, compared to O1, compared to O1
I'm talking about
Preview.
O1 Preview is what it is.
Yeah,
What the
compared
big
to
jump is
O1
because we've only,
Preview.
yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. No, yeah. Compared to O1 Preview, which is what we've had up until yesterday,
Yeah.
it is in many cases, you're absolutely right, 2 to 3 times better on everything. Math, especially like reasoning, rigorous things like math, coding. And the other area that it seems to be doing way better, even better than the full O1 model, is just in getting the same answer more reliably. Like they have a reliability score now. Like if you ask the same prompt 4 different times, which model is hitting the correct answer 4 out of 4 times, and Pro is doing it significantly more reliably even than O1, which is very interesting to me. So something they're doing. They didn't explain exactly what the difference is between O1 and O1 Pro.
Yeah. And also,
But
just in O1, the difference that I just noticed on here now between O1 and O1 Preview is there's different buttons at the bottom now. Now there's a solve button, a code button, summarize text, get advice, make a plan, and more. So I think you can actually select a specific subset by just saying, I want to solve, this is a solving problem, this is a coding problem, this is a summarized text problem,
yeah,
etc. And then it's going to have you upload documents to it. So I'm really excited about the different capabilities. And like I said, for me, it's all how do I use this practically in my law firm to move the needle in the direction I want it to go?
yeah. And that's one of the things that they're touting with the O1 and O1 Pro, especially. They're like rolling it out to a lot of academics who in like academic context, data analysis. And one of the areas they say that they're expecting it to be a huge improvement is in case law analysis, detailed case law analysis. So like if you feed it, let's say you feed it like 6 different cases and you say, hey, I need you to perform a very careful analysis of these cases and reason about their holdings and how it's likely to apply to our factual situation based on these cases. Like O1 is going to perform dramatically better than 4.0 because it takes its time. It takes its time to think through, all right, what does the Johnson v. Brown case say? What does this case say? How do we synthesize these? How do we apply it to your facts? And it might reason for 2 minutes. Like it's not going to give you an answer right away.
I much rather would have it do a 2-minute analysis than give the 4.0 model, which just finds basically just sledgehammers an answer out that could be accurate or not accurate or semi-accurate, right?
Yeah, yeah, and that's why we've used 4.0 a lot in just more basic intelligence tasks like extracting information out of text. I've talked before about like our email parser and stuff like that. Like when's the hearing date and that kind of stuff. It's really, really good for that kind of stuff. Like, just entry level high school intelligence, human reasoning. But as soon as you start getting into like digesting large bodies of information and cross reference reasoning and all that stuff, that's where it historically is broken down. So I'm really excited to see how O1 and O1 Pro are going to be able to handle like advanced case law research. And the other thing that's cool about these bigger models is they have huge output context windows. So like 4.0 can only output like I think it's like, I don't remember off the top of my head, like 15, 18,000 tokens, which is like 8,000 words, which is a decent chunk of text. But O1 and O1 Pro are supposed to be able to output like 65,000 tokens in a single output. So like you ask it a question, it's supposed to be able to output up to 60. That's 30,000 words. That's a book. If you wanted to write a full length legal brief analyzing the cases, are we there yet? I'm curious. Can't wait to try it out.
So I just asked Eleanor which model she's using, and she said she's using 4.0.
Okay.
So I wonder if they're because I know she was using 3.5 like when I originally started. So I think that what they're doing is probably just bumping up, as the new models come out, and they're basically updating the different Teams capability versions. But
Yeah.
um, so that's interesting. But I would obviously like her to be going into
Yeah.
the L1 model now. But
Yeah, and they're gonna launch O1 to the API here soon. So if you haven't already, you should be able to duplicate Eleanor over into the Assistance API, and uh, in the Assistance API, you can select your model of choice, like when they, whatever one you want to use. Um, as soon as it's live, I'm sure you'll be able to apply the advanced reasoning model. But
yeah, and so in just it's obviously important that the different variabilities, but when it comes to the accuracy, so like one of the things that I started using Illinois for was writing content, right? Writing blog posts, SEO optimized blog posts, content, all sorts of stuff, and given that she has a very specific database to pull data from. I mean, even the 4.0 model, I could tell the difference between its writing between the 3.5 and the 4.0 was a pretty big jump up. Um, but when she writes blog posts now, I mean, she only pulls from data from the database, right? And yeah, I think it's like 99.9% accurate, honestly. I think it's so close to being, and then I'll ask her like, "Where'd you get this information from?" And she's basically drawing inferences from the data that she's allowed to draw and making correct inferences, or extrapolating, higher level thinking on the actual data. So she's not sourcing it anywhere else. I'm like, "Well, where did you get these things?" Well, this is where I sewed together three different pieces of data to come up with this higher inference. Or like you mentioned this in a document. So I
yeah,
made this inference. And I'm like, this is and we're just in the 4.0 model. I mean, just think about what it's going to happen with
yeah.
the O1 model.
Yeah, I think we're gonna be blown away as this kind of level of extended thinking is applied to legal reasoning context, where it will be able to. What I want to see is like, and I'm not sure if it can do this yet, but is the ability to like continually pull information from its vector store as it's reasoning. So, like, here's the prompt. I'm thinking, I'm coming to a conclusion. Oh, that raises an interesting question. I need to pull the statute on this now. Now that as I'm going through my reasoning, can it like repeatedly pull from its store? I suspect it can, but I'd be interested to see like
Well, I
how
guess
that's
does
gonna
it
roll
does it
out.
need to? Because if it pulls information at the very beginning and then it basically sifts through the information and makes deductive reasoning based upon the information it has, right?
I think it depends on the context,
Mm.
because like if you go back to the original launch documentation on the O1 preview when that first came out a couple months ago, like they gave a bunch of cool examples of the model being applied in really complex concept contexts. And one of them was that I keep giving the example of that cipher one, in part because it's so illustrative of the ability, is it goes on for pages and pages and pages and pages, and it changes its approach to trying to solve the cipher throughout its reasoning flow. So what I would be curious about is like, when you're a human going through writing a brief or analyzing a set of cases or something, you might, things might spontaneously occur to you. Oh, well, that's an interesting thought. Maybe I need to dive through that deeper, explore that argument deeper. I want these, if they don't already, I want to make sure that O1 has that capability to, if it comes up with a new approach to tackle an issue while it's thinking, um, pull in that new relevant information. I think it's going to be able to do that if it can already. So we're going to get some really impressive output, I think, here pretty soon.
Yeah, and so one of the things we were talking about that I had mentioned before on our pre-call was was being able to actually, upload documents and digest the information, right? And so
Mhm.
and it's really important because I think it needs to, so I've been playing with that. I saw, what's the woman's name on Lawyer on the Beach who runs the groups? Irene?
Regina Edwards?
Regina, yeah. Um, she was posting some stuff about digesting bank statements and, giving outputs, and I'm like, I had this light bulb in my head and go, "Whoa, we do a lot of bank statement analysis here, right?" And
Yeah.
it's all manual, for closing probate cases. And, so I'm trying to really, really take the different features and the different, pieces of, the new models that come out and just instead of just like, "Oh, let's just, use them to do this or that," and just kind of like, "Oh, this is cool, let's do that." I'm like, "How do I actually really truly speed up processes that are, that we're
Yeah.
doing right now in the firm," right?
Yeah. I saw somebody, I can't remember who it was. Somebody posted that Pipefile. If anybody's a familiar Pipefile user, basically it's a system for sending out like document requests to people that they then have to like methodically, have I uploaded this? Yes, checkbox. Have I uploaded this? Checkbox. And
Yeah.
they're sent reminders and stuff like that until they've uploaded it. One of the things Pipefile came out with over the past week or so was a native integrated scanner piece of the app. So like your clients can just now like crack open the link and it will open up like a browser based scanner and they can just like tap the scan on their phone while they're looking at their documents or whatever they're looking at and it will upload it into your system. So now I'm thinking, well, could we connect this together where we have like a scanner into Pipefile into ChatGPT? I don't know if you would need the advanced reasoning. It depends on the context, I guess, of O1, but looking at those bank statements, extracting structured data, pulling out, here's the 47 transactions, output in array data, and then what do we do with it from there? Well, maybe we drop it into Google Sheets or our statement of account or wherever we're trying to put that bank information. It seems like there's a pretty viable workflow there that could be huge for probate, family law, or anybody that uses bank statement style uh, information. But and of course, it doesn't have to be Pipefile. It could be any place you retrieve the
Yeah.
document from.
But and I know you're going from the way, the way your brain and my brain works, but my brain, my execution doesn't follow up usually on that. But, starting from like how do I fully automate the process from the start, from the client clicking to getting to the finished product? And now I've
Mhm.
gotten more of away from that into, once we collect the documents, right? Maybe having them in a folder with a button, right? That pulls them out and then starts it there. Like once we've already confirmed, like these are the actual documents we want, right? These aren't the
Mhm.
wrong things, right?
True. Yeah.
And then, but, as a side note, I put out on, a Lawyer on the Beach on their forum, last week and just said, "Hey, I'm building a GPT and I wanted to analyze bank statements." I am afraid of I know that my data is not, my team model on ChatGPT or my team subscription is not being used to train other GPTs, right? But I still am not comfortable with uploading bank statements with
Mm.
account numbers and people's names and addresses on there into the model. What are people's
Mm.
thoughts? And it was a really mixed bag of response. I don't know if you saw that thread or not, but
Yeah, I think I did. I don't remember all the details of it, but I do remember seeing that thread and that it did generate quite a bit of conversation around it. But it's an interesting area, and maybe it's at some point there may be a deeper dive to be done for me on it. But every time I've looked at it and I look through OpenAI's like data and security and privacy, basically the way I use ChatGPT is almost entirely through the API.
yeah,
And they talk about how API use case is not trained on the models and, they can't, the data belongs to you. And I don't know what more there is. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like from a security standpoint, like I don't know what additional layers of security could be implemented.
I guess it's
Maybe,
are they saving? And I know, are they saving your information? And or I guess who has access to it? Are they saving it? And I guess until I really, until and it's really kind of because things are moving so fast, right? but so and so just to make myself comfortable, I just simply, um, I'm just gonna have my team in Adobe. I mean, you can just basically search, cut and paste, one page of a document, right? Just cut and paste the account number and the name and everything and put it in there and just it auto selects it throughout the entire document, hit redact, boom, it's fully redacted, and then you just dump it in real quickly.
Mhm.
It's an extra 30-second step in order to anonymize the bank statement. So that's kind of the approach we're gonna take right now on some of the
Yeah.
really sensitive stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, that's gonna be a lot faster in terms of, like, 'cause I think at this point, ChatGPT is pretty reliable in terms of extracting from PDF documents, extracting, like, table data like that. Pulling out the transaction, what was the date and all that, and then turning into CSV format or Excel sheet, whatever your, export format is. But definitely helpful use case, especially if you can upload, like, a whole set of bank statements. I don't
Yeah.
know if you tried that yet, but
Yeah, I uploaded, like, 2 years worth of bank statements,
yeah.
that I had to chop up in 3 different PDF files, and the, it was having trouble because I was only being able to use 4.0 because I couldn't upload documents to O1. So, I'm hoping that O1 has a better, and I guarantee it will, have a better ability to, 'cause in bank statements, you have, like, okay, so you have, like, like electronic transfers, electronic debits, right? And then you have, like, checks and other things, right? So, like, whatever's specific to that bank and the way the bank statement is set up, but it's, like, simply like, okay, extract all transactions from this. So it's a prompting issue really too. I think, hey, having the right prompt is important, but ignore the daily summary transaction amounts, right? Because we don't want to have this whole daily summary stuff. We just want the actual transaction stuff. So I think
Yeah.
it's gonna be tweaking it a little bit and then playing with the O1 model to see what it can do when it comes to targeting some of that stuff out. And another issue too is the resolution of the document and whether or not it's been OCR'd, right, already.
Yeah.
So I'm playing with a lot of different things on trying to come up with it so it's a perfect match. So it's just like, boom, upload documents, enter this exact prompt, into the GPT, and then it outputs the Excel file that's
Right.
90% accurate or 95% accurate.
Yeah, yeah. With, if they haven't already, we don't actually pay for a Teams, uh, ChatGPT subscription 'cause I haven't necessarily needed everybody's got the free plan to 4.0, and until they need a paid version, I don't know whether we're gonna bother with it or not. But if they haven't already, I'd be curious if they'll launch, like, text snippets or prompt snippets that you can save to, like, a company library, for working with the model. That would be helpful, in terms of systemizing and delegating that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And actually, I was listening to somebody was talking about some podcast was talking about, um, like it's everybody's talking about prompts, how important the prompts are, right? And it's like, well, I just this guy was like, well, I just asked the GPT what's the best prompt for something like this in order to accomplish it, and it gives me a series of prompts, and then I test those prompts to see which one's the best, right? I'm like, well, that is a very simple, easy idea to use as opposed to
Yeah.
trying to craft a prompt on your own or, looking at, to other resources for prompts. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, I've done that quite a bit, like, especially when I'm trying to, like, deploy a bunch of stuff quickly. I was working on, a kind of a marketing blog system, and I needed to create, like, 4 or 5 different GPTs, or AI, assistants, and they all had different system prompts, and I didn't wanna sit down and write. So I iterated and got one really solid system prompt for, like, formatting and information and all that stuff. And I was like, "All right, I need you to take this system prompt and, mutate it into this different context and, rewrite it, but maintain a lot of the same instructional stuff." And
yeah.
yeah, it was excellent at just, coming up with something. But absolutely, ask the model if you wanna know how to prompt it, like, give it all the stuff that you think it needs to know, or ask it what it thinks it needs to know about the task, to produce a better output. It's treat it like a person. But
Yeah, absolutely.
other interesting things going on. So, in this world of new model launches, we've got this company I wasn't even aware, they weren't even on my radar, but this company called Robin.ai, is targeting smaller law firms now. They're trying to bring these AI model stuff into Word, similar to Spellbook. I believe, but they are a very high polished. They appear to be a very high polished product. I don't know if anybody's tried them, but it seems to be targeted toward contract review, contract drafting. It's got it's basically like a sidecar ChatGPT that lives in your Word document. But it's pretty cool. I was pretty impressed with their marketing stuff where, they can, swap out paragraphs and do live edits for you and store different paragraphs in like a vector library that, if you say, hey, I want to pull one of our clauses for this, it'll fetch it right up and drop it in. And their starting is at $100 a month a seat, which is a lot more affordable than a lot of the other ones that I've seen going there.
Yeah, I mean, I think, in going back to kind of just the fundamental use of, AI in your law firm and thinking about stuff like that, it's, when it comes to I mean, like, we're lawyers, we draft documents, right? I think you said this before, like, we get paid to put the most simplest version of what we do. We get paid to put words on paper, right? Um, and so using AI or using any sort of automation when it comes to help you with what we do, which is putting words on paper, is extremely important and incredible in what you can do with the different tools out there, right? Whether it's document automation, whether it's using AI as
Sure.
part of document automation. But I mean, it blows me away though, each day that I hear and talk to other law firm owners about, um, they're still using form templates for stuff, right? They're still drafting emails like, from scratch, when it comes
Mm,
to stuff.
yeah.
They're still drafting, paragraphs or editing stuff or, like, it's crazy. It's crazy out there what people are not why they're not taking advantage of all these great tools and
Yeah.
specifically putting words on paper, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Some of the I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. Somebody was posting I can't remember even which group it was in, but they were talking about their lead follow-up process. How they send an email drip sequence, but it's manual. Their assistant follows up on with all the leads and sends them a manual follow-up email every so many days until they decide to convert or not. I was like, woof. I mean, there may be a higher conversion rate with that, like if it's a little more personalized, but
Nope.
golly, that's a lot of work.
I mean,
Uh,
what kind of personalization do you need? I mean, you have your data in your whatever platform you're using to send it, right? It uses
yeah,
their first name automatically. You use the no code snippet for first name and then last name, right? So it's somewhat personalized. It's to them, their first name, and
you know what? I feel like I haven't seen. Maybe somebody out there is doing this in CRM, but I feel like I haven't seen this yet. Is and it seems like an obvious implementation, which is AI email follow-up nurturing. So like you have a sequence, let's say you have a lead sequence of like 5 emails or whatever. And then instead of having a predefined canned answer, you just say, well, here's insert the name here. And then here's a AI block where the content of the email is just output by model. And the model is just given all the context of the file where, they can read the lead's name, the email, what the case was about, what the consult notes were, and they can do just a smart follow-up. Like, why isn't that out there? That's what I
so
wanna know.
so it is out there in a certain limit and in a certain ability. So through case status. So
Mm,
when case status, so we don't use email, we use obviously all messaging through the client portal, right? The client, sends a message, and so case status is AI tack on to has it 3 draft responses to the messaging. So, and I'm telling you, it's crazy how smart this thing is when it comes to giving the right message, right? I'm
mm,
I'm assuming it looks at all your prior messages, all the inputs you put in before, about what
neat.
you've talked about in the past, and then gives you like oh, hey, like 3 options, like, hey, we're taking care of it now, like, hey, here's another option. And it's like, it's really, really interesting,
Huh,
how close it's getting to, your true response. I mean, I'll start typing on a response and I'll look down and the response is already there, right?
wow.
In the AI. So,
Cool. I have not seen that. I'll have to check
yeah.
that out. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Well, very
Um,
good.
let's
Other
let let's
other
start
Go
let's
ahead.
start wrapping it up though, if you don't mind, for today's
Sure.
episode. Yeah.
Sure. All right. So any tips of the week, John?
So I'm gonna do the tips from between now and basically the end of the year will be, kind of forward looking, just general tips. So today, one of my tasks, is to start making a list or compiling our list for my team members of different pieces of that need to have changes when it comes to our systems, processes, everything. So throughout the year, and people on my team will put together. They'll say, okay, here's a document that needs to be reformatted or needs to be redone because we've made edits to it, and our document automation platform is still outputting the old version, right? So making those updates to the automation platform, and then just going over and having kind of a roundtable on like what's something we can use. What's a tool or something that we could potentially think about using in order to solve a particular process problem, right? Speed,
Yeah.
we're all about speed at our firm, right? How do we get the things done faster as a law firm? So, starting to kind of plan those projects for 2025, I think is really important. And then getting a giant list of what are the projects, and then kind of ordering them on priority on what's the most important thing that can move the needle, and then kind of starting to kind of flesh out searching through and coming up with a solution, whether it's using AI or some other automation.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. My tip of the week would be to make sure that your intake forms. Well, first of all, make sure that you have an electronic intake form of some kind, ideally. If you, John, if you don't,
That's on my
if
list,
you,
Dan. Come on now.
if you don't have an electronic intake form, the second piece would be to prioritize data validation, because I have seen. So one of the projects that we're working on right now is we get there's so much data you need to collect in a probate case about who's the heirs, what's their address, do we have their phone number, are they dead? If they're dead, what was their date of death? Da, 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 da. Who's his
Mhm.
kids? This person's dead. What are their kids' names? Da, 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 da. There's so much stuff that you need. And depending on how your form is set up, there's so much opportunity for people to fill it out wrong.
Oh yeah.
Like they just fill in the wrong, like for a while I'll give you an example. We were using a single line for full address. I was like, all right, type in your full address. And I
Yeah.
give an example in the little caption on the field, like type in the full address. That means city, state, zip. People would still do it wrong. They would still type in like 123 Smith Avenue in Baltimore. I'm like, okay. So then we'd have to manually go in and go find out where the hell 123 Smith Avenue was in Baltimore and Google and then type it in. And we switched that over. Instead, we have different fields. We have a street field, we have a city field, a state field, a country field, whatever. And people are nailing it now. Everybody's putting in their data correctly every time. And we don't have to do any fiddling. And so we're kind of going through the whole onboarding intake form to get more reliable data, to decrease the amount of time that we have to spend going back and forth with the client to get the stuff that we need, by forcing them to answer the questions that we absolutely need.
Yeah.
Like making that social security number required field on stuff like that. So that
Are you using
it
would make sense are you using conditional logic when it comes to that? Like, oh, if somebody is dead, then then it basically creates a new question to be able to fill in like, oh, well, did they have kids or this or that? Because that's what I'm building out now is.
Yeah, I was doing that until like a couple of days ago. But the other problem we were having is that like people were categorizing the type of contact incorrectly. Like we were letting them put in just a contact form. All right, is this a client? Is this a decedent? Is this an heir? What is this? And people were routinely
Getting it
labeling
wrong, yeah.
themselves as decedent or
Yeah.
labeling the dead person as the client, or just completely bungling. Even though we had a video disclaimer explaining how to label and a detailed description. Here's how. So people just don't read. Reading comprehension is bad. So making it simple. So now we have like different forms for each person. Like here's the client contact form. Fill that in. Here's the decedent contact form. Fill that in. Here's the heir contact form. Fill that in. And the requirements are different in each one.
Sure.
So now we're getting very structured records for everything. So I'm very optimistic. So that's my tip of the week is clean up your intake forms, clean up your data validation so that you don't have to spend as much time collecting information from the client as you do acting.
Awesome. Well, this is a fun episode. I liked talking about all the AI stuff and the new GPT stuff. I'm excited to see what the other, I guess, 10 days, or are we at 9 or 8 days? I don't even know where we are, but one of those days. So,
yeah. Yep. All right. Well, appreciate it, guys. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoy the podcast, head over to Spotify Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review so that other people can find us. If you enjoyed the conversation and you want to take it offline, join us at the Legal Tech Collective Facebook group. We're adding new members every day where we talk about this stuff all the time. Now get out there and start playing with some fun AI stuff, but don't get charged $2,000 fines like some Texas lawyer did last week. Thanks again, John. Until next time.
Thanks, Dan. Always a pleasure.
Yep. Take it easy.